This will be for the Khan Academy exercise, graphing exponential growth and decay. All right, so you want to remember the basic exponential equation, y equals a times b to the power of x. If you plug in x equals 0, you will get the y-intercept, which is a. If you plug in x equals 1, you will get the y-coordinate for x equals 1. And the horizontal asymptote will be at y equals 0. Okay, pretty simple. All right, so here they want us to graph this function, and we basically have 2 points that we can manipulate. So let's just plug in a couple points right here. All right, so here's a simple XY table. As we said in the notes, we're going to plug in x equals 0 and x equals 1. Okay, so first at x equals 0, well, that's pretty simple. If you put a 0 here in place of x, you're going to have 8 times 3/4 to the power of 0. 3/4 to the power of 0 is just 1. And of course, 8 times 1 is just 8. So at x equals 0, y equals 8. Okay, and that makes sense because we said you would get the y-intercept or value of a when you plug in x equals 0. All right, now we're just going to plug in x equals 1. So in place of x, just sub in a 1. And you have 8 times 3/4 to the first power. Okay, 3/4 to the first power is just 3/4. And when you multiply 8 times 3/4, you can make this 8 over 1 if you like. But we're just multiplying fractions. 8 divided by 4 is 2, so you can cancel there. And 2 times 3 equals 6. All right, the denominator is just 1, so it's just 6 over 1, or 6. So at x equals 1, y equals 6. Okay, and you only need those 2 points to plot the graph. All right, so we said x equals 0, y equals 8. This right here is x equals 0, and we bring it left click, hold it down, and drag it to y equals 8. And then at x equals 1, y equals 6. This is the x-axis. Here's 4, 2. In between 2 and 0 is 1. So this right here is x equals 1 and y equals 6. So bring it right there. Okay, and just keep this horizontal asymptote. You just keep this at y equals 0. Okay, because the function is going to decrease, but it's not going to go below 0. Okay, these are both positive numbers. You're just multiplying positive numbers. Since this is less than 1, the function decreases or gets smaller and smaller, but it's not going to go below 0. So you just leave the y asymptote right there at y equals 0. Anyhow, yeah, you only need those 2 points right there. All right, once again, graph the function. Here's the function here, and we're going to plug in 0 and 1 in place of x. Okay, so let's do x equals 0 first. And right in place of the x here, we're going to plug in a 0. Okay, and just like last time, 2 to the 0 is just 1. Okay, this is going to be 3/4 times 1, which is just 3/4. So at x equals 0, y is 3/4. If you want a decimal, that's the same as 0.75. Okay, and now we'll do x equals 1. So in place of x, we're going to sub in a 1. All right, and that's going to be 3/4 times 2 to the first power. 2 to the first power is just 2. Okay, 3/4 times 2, you can make it 2 over 1 if you like, but you don't have to. And we're just multiplying fractions here. We can cancel. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. Okay, and we have 3 halves times 1, which is just 3 halves. So at x equals 1, y is 3 halves. And that's the same as 1.5. Okay, so let's go to the graph and just plot these 2 points. All right, at x equals 0, we're going to 0.75. Okay, this is x equals 0. And between 0.5 and 1 on the y-axis is 0.75, right? Between 0.5 and 1. At x equals 1, we're going to 1.5. Here is x equals 1. And right here is 1.5 at x equals 1. Okay, as always, the asymptote's just going to be at y equals 0. Okay, if you plug in negative values for x, this is going to get closer and closer to 0. If you plug in negative here, it's going to be multiplied by 1/2 over and over again. Remember, when this is negative, this becomes the reciprocal. And you times 1/2 over and over again, it's going to get closer and closer to 0. But anyhow, you don't need to worry about the asymptote, just the 2 points. All right, one more. Graph the function. We're plugging in x equals 0 and 1. All right, so at x equals 0, we're going to plug in 0 in place of x. 4/5 to the power of 0 is just 1. 5 times 1 is just 5. So at x equals 0, y is 5. And at x equals 1, plug in 1 in place of x. That's going to be 5 times 4/5 to the first power, which is just 5 times 4/5. Okay, if you want to make the 5 a fraction, you can put it over 1. Multiplying fractions, 5 over 5 cancels. And we're just left with 4 over 1, which is just 4. All right, so 0, 5, and 1, 4. All right, at x equals 0, which is right here, you go to 5, in between 6 and 4. And at x equals 1, you go to 4. Right here is x equals 1, that's at 4. At 0, it's at 5.